Hello, friends, and welcome to another episode of the Run Breiter Podcast. Today I am joined with my wonderful co-host and girlfriend, Colleen Mock, as well as our co-dog, Nani. And we're making it happen today. First of all, Colleen, we got a lot of good topics to talk about. Well, actually, two main ones. But how are you feeling?
I'm feeling good. I had to bail on my long run today. It just wasn't in the cards, but listening to my body, taking some rest. But other than that, feeling good. How about you?
Yeah, I didn't bail on my long run.
Aren't you cool?
No, I mean, I am cool. I'm so proud of you for getting out there
Thank you. I'm proud of you for succeeding.
and training for a marathon. But yeah, two really exciting topics today. I think they're topics that are actually pretty big in society, right? But I do think that often we don't really think it's going on so closely to us, some of the impacts of what we're going to be talking about. But who knows, maybe if you're listening to this is something you've thought about or that you're currently dealing with. So we wanted to talk about the topic of weight loss in the way that we recently saw it on the documentary, the Trainwreck documentary by The Biggest Loser, which for those who don't know The Biggest Loser, it was a TV sitcom. Sitcom the right word?
No.
No. How would you describe it?
It was reality TV.
Reality TV game show where multiple contestants were brought on, all were overweight, and the goal was to lose weight and win the competition. So we're going to talk about that and just the ways in which the show was portrayed, and I think some of the impacts and just some things that we think the audience should think about. And then we're also going to discuss doping in sport, because that's just an area that we see a lot of professional athletes getting involved with, and there was something that Gabby Thomas had shared that I'm going to talk a little bit about as well, as far as like how we think the sport could perhaps move forward without doping, prevention and that, and some of our thoughts on that. But would love to hand it to you, Colleen, because something that I shared a survey on my Instagram about this week on was when The Biggest Loser was actually going on, did we find it to be inspirational or toxic? Curious if you're willing to share. How did you vote on that?
Yeah, I think I voted toxic, but you and I had like a conversation on this that honestly, like, I think I was too young to fully grasp what was going on. Mm-hmm. And like, I remember, hearing the title, it being called Biggest Loser, and being like, well, calling someone a loser, like, isn't a good thing, right? Like, that's derogatory. That's mean. That's rude. And so I was kind of confused as to why, like, you would want to be the biggest loser, right? Like, why would you want to win? And I also didn't have like a clear understanding of like how challenging it is to lose weight. And, as part of that, I also didn't know how, like, unhealthy the ways in which the participants were engaging in weight loss were. And so it was like, I definitely watched it. I sometimes thought it was entertaining. I do think that there was like I remember seeing people like working out until they puked, and I was like, wow, that's like, I didn't even know that was possible. And just kind of like having like a mixed understanding of what was going on. And I just don't think that I had like the knowledge to really like understand the dynamics of it. And, as the Trainwreck documentary shared, like, really even the people on the show didn't really know what was going on. And it was just, in hindsight, like, watching the documentary and seeing some of those challenges, especially some of those, like, temptation challenges, it's like, yeah, that's not how real life works. Like, some of the temptation challenges was, like, making people move food from one end of the room to the other, using their mouths, right? And like that's derogatory. That is, the image of having people who are trying to lose weight and forcing them to put food in their mouth and then carry it across a room. It's just like, you're not doing that because you respect the person, right? Like, you're not setting it up in a way to really, like, help them. It's just a ridiculous stunt to make someone, be portrayed in a certain way that's really not flattering.
Yeah, I would say so. Like, when I grew up, I found the show to be both inspirational, but also just like, it was hard for me to connect with.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it was inspirational because just seeing people losing weight and like seeing someone go from 400 pounds to 370 pounds in a week, you just see that number, the clickety clack on the weight machine, and you see the person get all hyped up, and like, that is inspirational. But I think like, I wasn't even thinking about the humiliation. I was like, oh, well, these people like need to be doing this. And so I just was unaware. Mm-hmm. And I think I like viewed like the food temptation challenges as like, oh, like they're just making it fun for them. Like they must like think this is really fun. Just being, clueless.
As like a child, yeah. I mean, yeah. Because it's like a comical amount of food that they had.
Well, yeah. And it's like I, at the time, was probably going to summer camp, and we would do like hot dog eating competitions, and like me and my friends would like, try to eat 2 slices of pizza in one bite.
Yeah.
So like I just like looked at those things differently because I mean I was a little bit of a chunky kid, but I wasn't at the point where I needed to go on The Biggest Loser or anything like that. I mean I was overall always healthy. So I think I just like looked at it a different way, but I think, what's interesting about this whole Trainwreck documentary, they have some other good ones outside of The Biggest Loser. There is just a lot of eye-opening things out there and like sad realities about how some businesses work. And my biggest takeaway about this show was that, I mean, it really just was a scam, the whole thing. I mean, I don't think anyone walks away with that from that documentary feeling as if the producers of that show, the network, really cared about making the lives of individuals better. They did not care about the people who were performing on the show, and they didn't care about the societal impact of showing the ways that they were losing weight. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, and I think parts of this can be both, right? Like, I do think that it is inspirational to dedicate yourself to changing your life.
100%.
And like all of the commitments that they had to give in order to make those changes. But I hesitate to, essentially state that it's inspirational to starve yourself, because then I think that can be, really, that gets into where it's really toxic, right? To promote these super unhealthy behaviors to that extreme. So to be clear, I think it is inspirational to dedicate yourself to your health. And that's what they thought that they were doing. And I think that they just were ultimately misguided in a very toxic and horrible, horrible way. If that makes sense, because I think it's just a very complicated.
Well, yeah, and we don't know all of the stories. We didn't have all the contestants on. Mm-hmm. We don't know who was telling the truth and who was stretching the truth. But at the end of the day, what we did know was that metabolisms were disrupted, and so many people who lost the weight gained it back, like a very high majority. I think they said like 14 out of 15 contestants from one season had lost or had regained the weight. So there was
in that study.
It's not everyone, right? But like it's a lot of people. Then there was the fact that the way that they were losing weight was just burning 6,000 calories a day and eating 600 calories, did they say? Or maybe
some of them were saying 600 to 800. And then of course you had some of the people kind of going on online rants stating that they were never saying that and that they were 100% saying 1,600. But, what is stated and what is documented versus what is actually like, portrayed to the participant can be very different.
But also, like, even if it was 1,600 calories,
it's not enough.
That's not enough.
No, and like 1,200 is the minimum recommendation for adults to eat a day, and that's like just to sustain life. That's not even accounting all of the workout and physical activities that they're doing.
Yeah, I mean, these people were maybe burning 1,000 calories on a normal day, and now you are times sixing the amount of calories you're burning.
If not more.
You're at least more also slicing in half the amount of calories that you're consuming. You know, something that I think we're both passionate about is, like, we want people to be healthy. We want them to be at an ideal weight for themselves and in a way that, you know, you're not going to have negative effects to the body. But if you are going through a weight loss journey, like, it's a process. It's gradual. It's doing a little bit each week to make your life a little bit better, not going all out or nothing, right?
Right, and I think that part of the issue is that a lot of the people that talked about their experience.
It'll be interesting to see if that gets picked up in the mic. We have Nani over here eating a bone that is like the size of a deer leg, just for perspective. Oh my gosh, where was I going on this train of thought? Yeah, I mean, I think part of the problem, too, is that, like, a lot of the people that, at least were on the documentary talking about it, you know, I don't want to say obviously, so I think the better sense of the word is that there was, you know, largely people who were participating that had very bad relationships with food. And a lot of them talked about essentially having disordered eating patterns before starting the show, right? Like, a lot of people were talking about engaging in binge eating. There was a woman who stated that she went on a binge like the night before, and had, like, I think multiple tubs of ice cream before she went to go and participate in The Biggest Loser. And whenever you have people who already are experiencing some sort of, like, disordered eating pattern or have, like, a negative relationship with food, and then you put them in this situation that's essentially promoting another disordered eating, or an even more extreme version of the disordered eating that they're already having, it's like, it's a recipe for disaster. And your body doesn't know what to do with it. So, like, your body's metabolism slowing down, you know, makes sense. Like, we see this sometimes in people that have bulimia nervosa, where they engage in, like, binge eating and then purging behaviors, because your body doesn't know, like, when it's going to get nutrients. So it has to kind of yo-yo between getting way too many calories at one time and then, like, not getting enough. And then it just reserves everything for those times when it's being starved. And, you know, like, scientifically, it makes sense that people who are on The Biggest Loser, their metabolisms would slow down, because that's exactly what the show is promoting, right? Like, they are way engaging in these excessive exercise activities. And then sometimes if they, you know, fall victim to one of the temptation challenges, some of that would result in binge eating. In fact, some of them were even, like, almost designed to encourage binge eating, just to see what would happen. And, like, people who typically engage in binge eating behavior are very secretive about it. They feel very bad about it. So, like, you know, putting all of the stuff necessary for a binge in front of someone who suffers from binging, and then shoving a camera in their face and saying that they might, like, win immunity if they engage in this behavior is just, it's a horrible thing to do. Yeah. And, you know, like, my other point about the fact that I just feel as if the show is 100% toxic when you just take a fine look at the details and everything that was included. And there was multiple people who were hospitalized and almost died.
Yep.
There's no reason that someone who is simply trying to just get in good physical shape, like runners who are going after very high, extreme goals, we sometimes see tragedy happening in the sport. But if someone just is trying to get in good shape and, like, that is it, you don't have to get to the point where you put your body in a position where you need to be hospitalized. Obviously, stuff happens. There can be, like, unfortunate events from having conditions at the time, but I'm saying more like putting your body at a limit on a regular Tuesday afternoon just because you're going through a weight loss journey. Like, you will lose the weight if you do the right things continually long term. If you put yourself in a situation like this where you've never ran more than a quarter of a mile in multiple years and then you're racing a mile all out and you're extremely overweight, yeah, like the person we saw on the show, you might have to get hospitalized because your organs and your body responds in a way where you end up getting rhabdo.
Well, and that, what I think is really, from watching the Trainwreck documentary, you know, assuming that we're going to take Dr. Huizinga and what he was saying at face value on the documentary, you know, The Biggest Loser was like, oh, we have a doctor who's like looking over everything and making certain everyone's okay. And you should always consult with a doctor before you make any changes to your diet, and any changes to your exercise routine, especially if you experience challenges with your weight. And so, like, you 100% always should be talking and communicating with your primary care provider about that. And so they kind of like presented this false idea that they had a doctor who was like saying all of this was okay. And then if we're to believe Dr. Huizinga on the documentary, he's like, I didn't even know of a lot of these challenges until after they happened. And so this particular woman who ended up developing rhabdo, whenever she had ran a mile on a beach in the sun, mind you, he's like, if you have never exercised or you haven't been exercising lately, your risk of injury and illness when you suddenly decide to do that increases and skyrockets immediately. And so, you know, there was kind of the sense that like everything was controlled, but it really wasn't. And, you know, rhabdo is like a massive deal. From my understanding of it, and I'm not a medical doctor, your muscles like start breaking down, your organs can start failing, you can get sepsis, you can die. And this woman, she was experiencing those symptoms, like she had to be airlifted out. She did develop sepsis. She thankfully did survive, but you know, this is an illness that you often see in endurance runners who aren't hydrating enough during races. It's pretty common to see it in ultra marathons. That's why there's a large concern about, you know, finding the balance between all of the electrolytes and water and gels and all the things. But it can happen too, as we saw, in people who are not used to doing physical activity and then suddenly go from 0 to their 100.
Yeah. Well, the question I have for you, Colleen, because I think we have expressed our point in a very good way about how we feel the show is not an example of how someone should be motivated to lose weight. Listen, at the end of the day, if like you watch an episode and it fires you up to like go to the gym, not eat a hamburger, and you're doing things the right way, and that works for you, I'm not telling you not to watch it, although they're not coming out with new seasons anymore. But I guess thinking in a more optimistic light at this point, if you were to like craft a show like this, what do you think would be the most beneficial structure to operate?
Well, I honestly think that's the problem, because the most beneficial and structured way to operate and engage in weight loss activity is not exciting, because it takes so long. Mm-hmm. You're not going to get these weekly double-digit weigh-in drops, right? You're not going to get these 200-pound, 250-pound, 150-pound weight loss transformations in 6 months, because that's largely considered unhealthy to do.
Yeah.
And so, like, you know, I think that ideally there would be, you know, some sort of structure in which people were interested in the correct way of doing things. And it's not about just gaining viewers, but actually learning about a healthy way to improve your life. And, you know, having a registered nutritionist, having a physical therapist, having a sports medicine doctor, having a primary care provider, having a psychology or mental health component to it too. All of these things, I think it would really have to have this integrated care approach. And it would take way longer, and you're probably not going to see these super dramatic videos of people almost falling off a treadmill and then puking on it, right? And like, you're not going to have people walking around with donuts in their mouths and tempting them to eat like a zillion chicken wings. It doesn't make good TV. How people like really succeed in those lifestyle changes is not like hot and sexy of a process. It's gradual. It takes a very long time. It's messy in a lot of ways. People don't have linear trajectories. They often hit plateaus, and that just doesn't make good TV. And at the end of the day, with it being a reality TV show, that's all they cared about.
Yeah. Well, I think they were trying to do it as quickly as they could because they wanted to like keep costs down and...
No, it was not about cost.
I mean,
it's not about keeping costs down. It's about bringing money in.
Well, it's profit, right? So, like, how do we do this in the cheapest, most entertaining, most profitable way? Is my opinion. You know what I do? When I asked you that question, I actually had a thought on where I do think this has been displayed recently in the right way, at least from what I had viewed. We watched that Mr. Beast 100-pound in 365-day weight loss challenge, where there was a gentleman on the show who had, like, I believe he lost his father, and his father wasn't super healthy, and he got selected to go on the show, and he was in this, living situation where he did have doctors, he did have access to physical trainers, he had like regulated healthy food and then workout equipment and everything like that. And I just think the way that Mr. Beast had documented it was really great. It was super motivational, but it wasn't, hey, we need you to lose 100 pounds in 100 days. It was like, hey, you have the full year. And it seemed like the way that that individual did it, it wasn't the right way from at least what I watched. So I do think it can do well on TV. They just need to like do it in a way that is thoughtful for the individual and the viewers and not displaying the wrong habits.
Yeah, I mean, I think what happened in the Mr. Beast video was a lot better. And the gentleman in that video, he was definitively not degraded, right? He was treated with a lot of respect. They took great care to ensure that he had mental health resources whenever various challenges came up throughout that time. But, some might argue that he still lost that weight too rapidly because it didn't take him a full year.
I think it took like 9 or 10 months.
Yeah, but I think, and again, not a medical doctor, but from my understanding, it's typically recommended to be losing like 1 pound a week. So even if it took him a full year, that would still be right around 2 pounds a week, which is a bit more aggressive, especially if you're considering that he should also be putting on muscle mass too.
Yeah.
I don't know. Not a medical doctor, and everyone's body is different too. And so what might be really aggressive for one person might be perfectly fine for another person's health. That's why it's so important to talk to a doctor whenever you're going through these things. And so it still might be the case that like that was okay for him to do. And if someone else tried to do that, that might be way too much for them. Who knows?
Yeah.
But it was definitely better, and definitely like he was treated with far more respect.
Yeah. But I would just say, in general, like my biggest message that I want to get across here is most of us aren't going to be on a TV show or a YouTube episode, unless you're like a content creator and you want to share your own story, which fully respect you doing that. I do think that actually is a really good way to hold yourself accountable is talking about it, sharing it with your friends, your family, a community of supporters. Like I've seen some really cool weight loss journeys on social media, by individuals who are like doing very realistic challenges and keeping it long term. Like, I forgot this guy's name, but it's a bigger guy who's like, every follower is like a mile I have to do, but it's not like he's actually doing 1,000,000 miles in a few months. Like, he's doing a mile a day, and like, I doubt he'll do 1,000,000 miles ever, but like, it's motivating him to do a lot more than what he was doing. And so I just think like, just trying to make the right habits slowly over time. If you're drinking soda, eating food with seed oils and fried food, and your calories are 5,000 per day, and you're working out once a week, well, maybe let's try to get down to 45, 4,000. Let's eliminate seed oils, or let's eliminate, half the amount of sodas. And then let's try to go to the gym twice a week within the first few months. And then over time, just continually go down. And like, those numbers, I think, like, talk to a dietitian, talk to a physical therapist. Like, I'm just throwing out an example, but I think like, if you're not going to pay for those resources, just like looking at your situation and finding a way to just over time, just make it a little bit better and a little bit better. And the numbers that you're looking for as far as weight loss, it's not going to lead, but it will come with that continued long-term effort. But what about you? What's like your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, again, like Sam was saying, we're not giving out medical advice here, but checking in with a licensed professional in the area, but also like a larger component of just viewing the changes that you want to make as, being like a lifestyle change, I think is really important for a lot of people in order to find that success in keeping their weight off. Right? Like, if someone is trying to stop drinking alcohol or trying to stop smoking cigarettes, they're not saying like, I'm going to go on a diet from alcohol and cigarettes. They're saying like, I'm trying to quit this. I want to live a healthier life. And that is a similar thing that could, potentially be useful as well whenever we're trying to step away from diet culture, because dieting really kind of implies that there's like an end to it, right? And it's typically really restrictive. And what we know is that whenever the more you restrict something, the more likely you are to also then overindulge whenever you're presented with that. And so finding a way to have things in moderation, not just food, but like literally everything that you're doing in moderation, is typically the best way to ensure long-term success. So whether that be, slowly swapping out, I don't know, like a cookie for a fruit that you prefer, whatever it is, trying to talk. And, if you do talk with the dietitians or the nutritionists, which I would definitely highly recommend, they also often have really good, healthy swap ideas. Things that still will satisfy whatever sweetness or salty craving that you have in a way that is at least ever so slightly healthier or better for you. And I think another important thing is that, like, just because something is low calorie doesn't mean that it's healthy. So I don't know. There's just a lot of misconceptions, and I think trying to find a provider, a lot of times grocery stores even have like nutritionists that you can talk to that aren't affiliated with a medical, like a primary care provider office or whatever it is. And just trying to figure out a way to really like implement those lifestyle changes, not going on a diet, but really like trying to make those long-term changes could be helpful too.
Yeah. And I mean, I would just say, I never want to like recommend someone to do something that puts them in a financial spot where they're super uncomfortable. But like, first of all, look at your resources through your health insurance. Like, you never know what you might have access to service wise, or check with your company. Like, you can talk to your HR team and see if they have any programs set up that you just might not be aware of. Mm-hmm. It might just be like on a request basis.
Yeah.
But I would just say, if you're concerned about putting money, like your own money, into your own health, I would just like think about that a little bit further, because an investment in your health to get the right education, to have access to the right fitness facilities, to be able to eat the quality of food that still allows you to like enjoy eating, but in a way that is a little bit more mindful for the goals that you might have for yourself, it's going to be a lot less expensive than perhaps expensive medical bills that come with future problems that could come with an unhealthy lifestyle long term. So just something to think about. Again, not going to force anyone to do anything, but just kind of something I think about when we choose to spend a couple extra dollars to get organic food compared to processed desserts or something like that, for example. But why don't we shift gears, unless you had anything else you wanted to share on this topic of weight loss and The Biggest Loser?
Yeah, I think, there are often financial restraints to seeking some of these services, like what Sam was saying. And there are benefits to trying to increase your health in order to reduce costs long term, right? So trying to prevent the expensive costs of managing type 2 diabetes, or, sleep apnea, COPD, all of these other things that can come with unhealthy.
Or having to take extra time off from work.
Lots of things, stroke, heart attack. But there are health risks associated with engaging in these very extreme weight loss attempts, too, especially without the guidance of a doctor, which is why it's important to do that. So there can be very detrimental health and financial risks associated with not changing your lifestyle, but also recklessly changing your lifestyle. And so finding that balance in the middle, also, a lot of times, these things are kind of on a consultant sort of, or short-term care role, short-term behavioral intervention or whatever it is. And so it's not like you'd be, it's not going to be as expensive in the long run as it would be to have to manage those chronic health conditions, or to, have to navigate whatever could come up if you're trying to work out in a way that's really reckless too, right? As we saw by the woman who was hospitalized and was on sepsis and had sepsis from rhabdo. So it's potentially dangerous and expensive either way. So talk to a doctor.
Yeah. For sure. Okay, cool. Well, the other topic that we wanted to discuss today was doping. And the reason that this topic I wanted to address was just because we actually talked about in a podcast, I don't know, probably a year ago.
Almost a year ago.
Yeah.
And shout out to the person who commented on that video and pointed out that we put our foots in our mouths. That's fine.
Yeah, so just so everyone knows, the winner of the Chicago Marathon the year that we ran it, Ruth Kepinjetic, I believe is how you pronounce it. We had said that we were optimistic that she didn't dope, even though there was a lot of people who were very skeptical of the time that she ran, because it was just such a big leap compared to the marathon PR on the world stage that we've seen. And we were hoping that she didn't dope, but she in fact did.
Well, no. She has we don't know if she doped during Chicago, technically.
She has recently gotten caught for doping, but the truth...
She got caught for having a masking agent.
Yeah, why would you have a masking agent?
It's suspicious, it's a banned substance, but still, technically.
She 100% has been doping for a while. And no one takes a masking agent for fun, and you don't break a world record by 3 minutes and then start doping after that. That's just the reality of it. But that's okay. I appreciate your support, but she did. And listen, at the end of the day, there are probably plenty of athletes in the sport who have not gotten caught for it, because she could have just called it a quits and retired, and then we wouldn't have known. But she also didn't get tested before or after Chicago, so there wasn't an opportunity for her to even get caught, because
it's not necessary.
Yeah, it's not required. But it's sad, because I think society has a hard time connecting with the sport of running, because there have been so many athletes who have gotten caught doping, records that have been broken, that have been revoked We have medals that have been earned that have been churned. You like the rhyming?
They've been revoken.
Medals that have been earned that have been churned. I thought that was good too. And there's uncertainty about who else may have done it that have gotten away with it. You know, I think what's sad is the Kenyan running community faces a lot of criticism due to this. There's been over 400 athletes from Kenya who have been caught.
400?
Yeah, it's a wild statistic. And so a lot of people can be, discriminate.
Yeah, prejudice
Because of that, even though there's like plenty of amazing runners from Kenya who don't dope, who have a lot of success. It makes it difficult. Because like I can understand someone's perspective, but I also don't agree with that perspective personally.
With the perspective of like there are some people who say because they're more specifically there are certain people who are advocating that the entire nation of Kenya no longer be allowed to participate in running sports, and like
I think it's more just like
you don't agree with that.
I 100% don't agree with that.
Right.
I think it's more just pointing fingers, and like when you see someone being successful from there saying, oh, that they're probably doping.
Well, and that's, getting to like racist behavior.
For
right.
Sure.
And so obviously not good. Right. Like,
yeah.
It's ridiculous because there are plenty of Kenyan athletes who don't dope, who are fantastic runners. And it's also really unfortunate that this is now something that all of those runners are facing.
Well, it kind of reminds me of like baseball in the early 2000s. Like anytime, and I know this isn't a baseball podcast, but anytime we saw anyone hit over 50 home runs, once people started getting caught for it, we would generalize and we would just assume like they're on steroids. It's not about if, it's about when they get caught. And I think in this case, it's kind of like a similar situation. I think the problem here is in baseball, it was all backgrounds where, I mean, we have seen it a higher proportion in Kenya, but there's been a ton of Americans who've gotten caught from doping. We just haven't seen a lot in recent years, which is good, but it just is what it is. But I thought it was interesting. Gabby Thomas, who like I respect a lot. I think she's done a lot of great things for the sport. First of all, she's a freaking genius, Harvard graduate, had a ton of success in the Olympics, just seems like a really, really good person. If you're listening, you want to come on the podcast, we're happy to have you. But she has talked a lot about the topic of doping. And I definitely don't think that she does, because I think if you're going to speak about it and ways to prevent it, you aren't doing it most likely. And, what she talks about is the fact that she believes anyone who dopes should never be able to compete again or coach. And then anyone who coaches someone who dopes shouldn't be able to coach.
Like that sport or just coach at all?
Coach professional track and field. Mm-hmm. What are your takes on that?
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's tricky. I think it depends on like how much the coach knows. I think it depends on how much anyone knows in those situations, right? Like, is the coach knowingly?
Well, a lot of times the coaches are connecting the athletes with it and making it happen. That's why she feels that way, just so you know.
Well, I appreciate that. But, while that might be true for a lot of the cases, that's certainly not true for all of them. And so I think to put this major widespread potential ban would be pretty unfortunate if you're essentially being prevented from doing your livelihood for someone else's, work or because of someone else's error in judgment. I also think that it would be pretty unfortunate to prevent someone from racing if, they were a child. Like if they were, say, Quincy Williams is doping. I don't think he is. Quincy Wilson, sorry. Say Quincy Wilson is doping. He's 16, maybe 17. He was 16 last time that I checked. I don't think that he's doping. Let's say a coach connects him with some sort of like banned substance, says he's going to be the best in the world, blah, 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 blah. He's a kid. He decides to do that. He's making a mistake. I don't think he should be banned for life from track and field for doing that. Assuming that he, then changes his behavior. I can see that there are situations in which there are exceptions to the rule, and if the rule is too harsh, I think it could be really damaging to certain people's livelihoods.
Well, I think she feels this way because a lot of the Kenyan athletes who have been getting caught from doping time after time, it's the same coach multiple times.
Yeah.
And it's happened in the U.S. too with
I'm sure.
with a specific coach.
Yeah, well, not specific even just to running, but like cycling had a big issue with it, with certain labs too and certain coaches and training systems.
Well, if it's like a one-off or like 2 times in 10 years that you have an athlete, I don't think that's as much of a concern if it's compared to like every year there's another athlete that you're coaching.
Yeah, I don't know. I know how hard and sometimes desperate some of these athletes could be to rely on running to escape whatever situation they're in. I mean, there are plenty of like endurance athletes, runners, high-class professional athletes that experience domestic violence, for example, right? And so, I just think it would be really difficult to fully prevent someone from their livelihood for making a mistake, especially if they're engaging in that mistake because perhaps they're motivated to need to get money for certain reasons. I don't know.
Do you think the answer is that there is no answer to fixing the doping? Because I think we both agree there's a doping issue in the sport.
There is a doping issue.
It has an immense damage on the credibility, the popularity of the sport, which does also take away from a lot of resources for current runners, up and coming runners.
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, like, even though I'm saying that this is a rule that, like, is being proposed, that there are flaws to it, there isn't going to be a perfect solution to it. So even though I've pointed out that there could be situations that are weird where things like could happen and fall through the cracks, that doesn't mean that this isn't the best solution, right? Like, that could be the best solution. That could be just implementing that and like actually starting to do that could fully drastically change it. And like, if we're preventing people from using steroids, great. Like, that's good. Because I think it taints the sport. I remember whenever we were racing Chicago, and I actually heard, like, in the middle of running, someone from the crowd was, like, yelling that a world record for the women's marathon had been set, and I was like, this is amazing. Like, this is great. This is like the energy. I was running through Chinatown at that point. I was like losing all hope of finishing the marathon. And I heard that and I was like, amazing. Like, if they can do that, I can do it too. I can finish. I obviously cannot set a world record, but like, I can finish. And it kind of like taints that to know that now her record is like under suspicion. And
you would have been one place higher if they had actually tested her.
Yes, because I'm sure she was the only one who would have been doping. But I think it's a huge problem. I also think it sets up people to try and train and do all these things in ways that, again, are dangerous and can be costly and can result in them getting injured or sick, and can take away from people who are truly trying their best and putting everything in and doing it the right way. Sorry. Very late.
It is. We're almost done.
It's 10 o'clock. Very late. Yeah, I'm kidding.
Outside of the headline and a skim of the article from Gabby Thomas, but I don't know her whole argument on it. I have a feeling like what I'm going to share as far as like my solution is probably in line with how she's thinking about it. Because I do get your perspective as far as we don't want an athlete who is amateur, even under 21 years old, who made one mistake to see their career being destroyed. With that in mind, I think that the athlete, believe it or not, should have a lot more protection than the coach. But I think the coach should be held a lot more accountable if they're able to prove that the coach knew or pushed this on the athlete. So my thought is the athlete could face severe consequences, a multi-year ban or a lifetime ban, but if the athlete's able to show proof, and they have a lot of ways where they can prove things, even with AI and image editing and everything like that, that their coach proposed this, pushed this on them, knew about it. It's almost like a get out of free jail card for the athlete, and then we take down these coaches that are involved. And so, because at the end of the day, these coaches, most likely, if you are training an athlete who's already super successful, like, you've already had success. You already have a financial backbone to you. Coaches are typically, not always, but typically later in their career. A young athlete who's just trying to get after it, they're trying to make a quick buck. But if you have like all these coaches very against it, very cautious about it, not approving on training an athlete who is shooting themselves up, I think that's the answer.
Yeah, I mean, I could get behind definitely something like that has more of like that case-by-case review. At the end of the day, I just think that there needs to be more of like, I do think people need to start getting like held accountable, whether that looks like banning or multi-year suspensions or very expensive fines or whatever it is. I do think that people need to start being held accountable. And I do think that, there being proof of like whoever is kind of trying to like push the agenda, being held more accountable, essentially trying to take like a top-down approach and taking like, we're going to take out the coach from this equation who is essentially like poisoning the rest of the people that they're working with, right? In that example, it's complicated. I do think that that's a great solution, and like I do appreciate that more than like just a blanket wide thing, especially because I think that there have been a lot of cases where athletes have been like, I didn't know like the doctor told me to do this, my coach told me to take this thing, I didn't know it was banned, right?
Yep.
And of course it's easy to say that and like be lying, but I'm sure that probably someone also trusted the doctor. Yeah. Or trusted their coach or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, I truthfully feel like if the sport could clean its act up, I mean, we would see sponsorships improving. More sponsorships would result in more TV viewership, and then more of our youth getting into running. We see, listen, I love football. It's a great sport. It's a lot of fun to watch. Is football really a healthy sport? It's debatable. We have a lot of people who suffer brain damage, who suffer long-term, even lifelong injuries. Running is going through this beautiful boom with the increase in content and younger adults doing these large physical challenges. And I think there is a window that is opening now for the youth to want to start to run, maybe instead of wanting to do football and like having a career in track and field. The problem is, unless you're Noah Lyles or Sha'Carri Richardson, you're not making a lifetime, $100 million offer ever. We got Cole Hawker in the background, great guy. His net worth is probably under $1 million, and he won a gold medal in the Olympics in a race that no American has won in quite a while. But I think running could get there, but we need the sport to really be an example, and we need the resources, and the best way we can do it is by keeping it clean. And I think that's something like I'm just super passionate about, is like encouraging the youth to want to join the sport. And I think it's just sad that like it's such a big part of it. And I want to talk about like the fact that there are people out there who we run races with who probably we beat who are even doping, and the adverse effects. I mean, the bone damage that it can do to you, the heart impacts that it can have, it shortens your life. I mean, any like thoughts on like the impacts and like how people should think about it if it's something they're thinking about to increase their performance? Maybe using it to help you qualify for Boston Marathon or break a 5-minute mile or get a six-pack that you've never been able to get.
I mean, I'm a big proponent of like overall health and wellness, and trying to like be like, oh, I'll be better in this superficial like thing that I've decided, like getting abs or like running a certain time at the risk of like these long-term health consequences. Like, that's just defeating the purpose of what you're allegedly trying to get to anyway, right? Like, people will take anything too far, and there are tons of people who have very unhealthy relationships with exercise, and who are willing to do anything and everything to, qualify for Boston or whatever it is, at the risk of what? These long-term, detrimental, potentially like very damaging health consequences. It's just, it's
got a bunch of mental effects too. I didn't talk about those.
It's just like the irritability, the aggression that can come with it. It's like you're doing it for such a short, like it's taking away the purpose of doing the activity in the first place too, right? Like, I mean, engaging in running should be fun and enjoyable and like pleasant, and you should want to push yourself, and like you should also, listen to your body and try and stay healthy. And then if you inject yourself with these like substances, you're not going to be staying healthy if it's causing all these negative consequences. Like that's just not. It's just not like, it's not worth it in my opinion. Like, you're worth more than qualifying for Boston, right? Like your health is worth more than getting a six-pack or looking a certain way or whatever it is. And if you feel like you need to use steroids to get there, is it really worth it?
Yeah, fully agree. I think the message we wanted to get across today in this podcast is there's a lot of things in life that you might think are too good to be true, and there's a lot of times that they are. You might see someone that you really look up to who's accomplishing something that you could never believe they were able to do, and the reality of it is the way that they're doing it is not a way that is sustainable. It's not a way that is fair more to themselves than anything. But then there also is a lot of things that we can see out there that we're like, wow, this seems too good to be true. And no, it actually is true. But those people are the ones who have been putting in the lifestyle-based changes needed over a very long period of time, and being moderate with everything that they're doing, being very mindful and strategic to accomplish whatever goal they had. And I think that if you can take anything from here, if it's just to like, to learn, it's just trying to get a little bit better.
Talk to your doctor.
Mm-hmm. Invest in yourself, and I think you'll just be happy, you'll be healthy, you'll live a long life, and you'll accomplish some great things along the way.
Yeah, and I mean, comparison is the thief of joy, right? Like, you don't have to keep up with everyone else. So you're not keeping up with the Joneses. Trying to beat yourself, trying to improve yourself, I think is also a good way to just kind of help yourself from falling into this mindset of, oh, if I want to look like X, Y, and Z, then this is what I need to do. Well, why do you need to look like this person? Isn't it okay to look like you and just try to live a little healthier of a life? Just kind of looking at it like that too.
Yeah. Just brush your teeth twice. Just brush your teeth twice a day.
Yeah, whatever that was.
And you'll have a good smile and you'll be fine.
Oh my God.
Well, we appreciate you joining us as always. It's been a pleasure talking through these topics. And, I would just say if you are looking to make yourself a better version of yourself, incorporate running in your life, feel free to reach out for any questions, running tips, or advice. I do think running has taken me to some really great places, physically, mentally, and allowed me to have really good balance in my life. But that's all we have today. Colleen, any final thoughts?
Don't forget to run brighter.
We'll see you again soon. Thanks.